The Esquire Brad Illuminae, along with Alan Waddell, we're live tonight from the Swamp, Ponchatoula, where it's the Green Wave versus the Skippers. We're going to take a pause from the action right now so that we can bring you our Allstate Sugar Bowl interview of the week. This week, we're delighted to have with us a college football analyst for CBS, Mr. Aaron Taylor. Before he jumped in the broadcast booth, Taylor was a star offensive lineman at the University of Notre Dame, and just recently he became the 48th Fighting Irish player to enter the College Football Hall of Fame, and that's the most of any college school at all, 48. Taylor also was a two-time first-team All-American for the Fighting Irish, and yes, he played in one of the Sugar Bowls, the 1992 Sugar Bowl, where Notre Dame had a 39-28 victory over Florida. After his college career, he was a first-round pick, played for the Green Bay Packers, San Diego Chargers, and actually is a Super Bowl champion, winning the 1997 championship with the Green Bay Packers. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight, man. We're so glad to have you.
Well, it's good to be here, Brad. I enjoy talking Notre Dame football, and particularly the Sugar Bowl and all the things and great experience that I've had down there, including winning a Sugar Bowl, but also a Super Bowl. So this is something I've been looking forward to for a while.
Well, look, man, we appreciate it. I kind of lead off a lot of times with players like yourself that it all starts in high school, because that's kind of where it starts for most players, and yourself included. You know, we got a De La Salle High School here on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans, and you are a graduate of De La Salle High School, just not that one, the one in California, which is always predominant, nationally known, nationally ranked. California also known for producing great high school and then college and then professional prospects. So tell us a little bit about your playing days back in California on Friday Night Lights.
Well, I was kind of new to football, and I didn't really start playing football for real until my sophomore, junior year in high school. I was kind of a knucklehead kid, was willing to follow anybody to fit in, and as a result started making some poor choices, and my grades dropped, and I was a DNF student. And Mama Bear kind of called me on the carpet and kicked me out of the house, and that was kind of my wake-up call. And she challenged me to focus and figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And without hesitation, I said, I want to be a pro football player. And then she walked me back about what that would take. And what I realized was the high school I was currently at wasn't really conducive to being very supportive of sports, and that's where De La Salle came in. And what I loved about that experience was being part of something bigger than myself. There was a standard there. There wasn't just the athletic standard. It just wasn't the academic standard. It was a standard of a higher calling, and everybody was held to that. And I didn't think that I was missing that in my life, but when that showed up, it was that sort of structure, that sort of scaffold that really helped me start to become successful and focus on school, make much better decisions, end up getting a scholarship offers to almost every place in the country. But Friday nights were special, man. Running out of that tunnel for us, or running through the paper, I guess, that the cheerleaders made, were experiences I'll never forget. But our game day experience really started on Thursday nights, and that's when we would go to a teammate's house. Their parents would cook a bunch of food, and we would get together and we would talk about the game and our assignments. And then it would start to bleed over into teamwork and our community and our culture. Then on Friday afternoons after school, we would have chapel service, and that was really about getting into our hearts about what this game meant and kind of the motivational / inspirational piece of it. So by the time we took Thursday night, Friday afternoon chapel service, and it was 7 o'clock, getting ready for a kickoff underneath the lights there at De La Salle, man, there was nothing like it. It was a brotherhood. It was bigger than football, and it was an incredible experience. And I'm sure so many of your listeners and other high school players around the country have felt.
Yeah, man, we preach that all the time, that football is more about just football and going on the field and playing the game. It's, for some people a means to an end. Some people it's a way to, get out of a bad situation or get yourself back on the right track like you did. It's a brotherhood. It's just a lot more than, just the game. So I know our listeners really appreciate that sentiment and your experience on it. And after you were able to get through that high school experience, then you move on, prestigious Notre Dame University. pick up All-American honors. You get to come down here to New Orleans, man, and play in the Sugar Bowl against Florida. And that was one, I'll let the listeners know real quick, Florida's leading that one 22-17, 5 minutes to go. And behind a good offensive line, Notre Dame, Jerome Bettis, the bus, has 2 touchdowns. Florida comes back and scores. It's 32-28 with about 2 minutes to go. And then the bus puts one in from 39 yards out, sets the score 39-28, victory for the Irish. So tell our listeners about that experience that you had down here in that Sugar Bowl.
Well, Florida was an extremely talented team that year. I think they were 10-0 coming into that bowl game. And ranks number 3 in the country. So here comes little Notre Dame, ranked 18th, and I think we had 3 losses that year. So a little bit of a quote-unquote down year based on what the expectations were. And that's when Holtz famously called it the Cheerios Bowl, because there was supposedly a waiter that had told him that, asked him a question about what's the difference between Notre Dame and Cheerios. And Coach Holtz said, yeah, I don't know what. And he said, well, Cheerios belong in a bowl. So whether that happened or not, I don't know, but that was classic Lou Holtz trying to get us motivated. But Florida was so good defensively. They had a really good plan, and they were stunting, which is a crisscross and exchange of assignments with the defensive lineman on the snap of the ball, and it was messing us up in our run game. So we came to the sideline, made some adjustments, and the plays that Jerome scored those 2 touchdowns on, the 49-yarder and the 39-yarder, was 60 trap. It's like football 101. It's the simplest play that we've ever had in the sport. God's play, some people would say. But the way we blocked it, it turns to power. Basically, I would pull around, and if the 3 technique or the defensive lineman that was coming upfield that I was supposed to kick out pinched inside, which they had been doing all game, then I would convert it and basically exchange assignments with the right guard who was supposed to block the linebacker. I would go up and block his linebacker. Well, that little adjustment yielded huge results, and Jerome Bettis did the rest. I mean, he was a 250-pound running back with breakaway speed that Florida just didn't have an answer for. But that was a tough, hard-fought game, and gave me a lot of respect for that staff, of which Ron Zook was, I believe, the defensive coordinator on that team. And we still have a big, hearty laugh whenever that 1992 Sugar Bowl comes up. It's one of the most epic games I've ever been a part of, especially the way that we won it at the end, running the football, which is every offensive lineman's preference.
Yeah, definitely a great game, as you said, one for the ages. After you close out that career at Notre Dame with your All-American honors, first-round pick in the NFL draft, you go on to win a Super Bowl. So you got a Sugar and a Super Bowl victory. Most recently selected to the College Football Hall of Fame, and then after all that's done, you transition yourself into the booth to become an analyst. So what's that transition like for you, going from playing all those years to the booth, and what things are you able to take from the field up to the booth, and then what other things do you have to learn to try to make that transition?
The transition's a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people suspect and expect, and that certainly was the case for me. John Saunders, who passed away shortly, a couple years back, was a real good buddy of mine. And we first started working in studio. He said something to me I'll never forget. He said, I made a mistake coming out of commercial or going to a highlight package or whatever it was. And, him and Craig James were kind of busting my stones and having some fun at my expense. Very, normal locker roomy stuff. But what he said was, the rookie's learning that there's a big difference between understanding football and bringing it to life on television. And boy, was he spot on, because it's one thing to know what to do. It's another thing to explain how to do it. And that's a lot more art than it is science. So it sometimes takes many years to be able to hone the craft, particularly when you're calling a game in the booth. I think the studio transition is quite a bit easier there, because you're just talking with the guys and it's more locker room banterish. But it's a transition that was difficult for me. One that I've stuck with, and is obviously, working out. I think I'm going into year 13 or 14 doing this deal, but it's finally starting to slow down for me up there, and I'm staying ahead of it and in front of it, and really feeling command of what I'm trying to accomplish as one of, a 45 or 50 member team that travels to game site on a weekly basis. And what I realized, Brad, is that it's that community that I really miss playing football. The football's a people game. The X's and O part, the big paychecks in the NFL, all that stuff's important. But the thing that feeds my soul the most is that I'm a meaningful part of a team, not the most important part, but an important part that has a job to do. And that's just something that's really hard to replicate in the real world. And that's why I'm so grateful that CBS has been my employer for as long as they've been, because it does a lot more than put cheese on my table.
Well, man, you're doing a great job of it. I know on the weekends when I'm able to catch a game that you're calling, always spot on. Enjoy watching your calls on TV. Aaron, look, I know you got to run, man. We really appreciate you joining us on the program tonight. It was a pleasure talking with you, getting in this interview, hearing your thoughts about your experiences in high school, college, and the pros now in the booth. And especially your thoughts about how high school football, which is what we do each and every Friday night, is more than just football, more than just a game, how it means a lot more to the kids, the parents, and everybody involved. So there you go, folks. That's Aaron Taylor right there, former player for De La Salle, not the Cavaliers on St. Charles, but in California. Also All-American at Notre Dame, College Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner, and now CBS analyst. Stick around. We're going to be back with more, with updates, coaches, and scores here on the Allstate Sugar Bowl Prep Football Roundup on WWL.